In the heart of the infinite Pacific Ocean, isolated by thousands of kilometers of open sea, in one of the most remote and mystical places on the planet, lie the Galapagos Islands, a wild sanctuary so extreme that it is considered the largest natural laboratory on Earth. These islands are ruled by mysteries and natural rituals, where males live with more than 20 females, patrolling their domains and fighting fierce battles to protect their harem. Here, just a few decades ago, a sensual baroness challenged social norms with a scandalous polyamorous romance that led to disappearances, intrigue, and death. A region where impossible and unique creatures coexist without fear of humans, from marine iguanas that dive like dragons to giant tortoises that live for more than 150 years. Such mind-boggling diversity inspired the theory of evolution of a young theology student with a passion for nature, the famous Charles Darwin. Pay attention and don't miss this new video from Uncensored World. We're about to travel to the Galapagos, a place so connected to nature that in one of its most famous festivals, hundreds of women dance like birds in heat, moving to the rhythm of an ancestral courtship ritual that seems like something out of another world. Let's get started. In a corner so remote that it seems to float outside our reality, where the horizon meets the sky and the waves tell stories that few know, stand the Galapagos Islands. Surrounded by thousands of miles of open sea, these lands are located right in the center of the Earth, at a point where the coordinates seem to draw a perfect cross, the equator. That is why in the Galapagos there are always 12 hours of light and 12 hours of darkness, the same number of hours in the day as in the night. The origin of the name Galapagos Islands is closely linked to their unique and extraordinary fauna, as the word Galapago comes from Old Spanish and literally means saddle. This term referred to the imposing shells of the giant tortoises that inhabit these lands, whose outline and texture are reminiscent of those sturdy and resistant ancient saddles. It was this particular resemblance that inspired the first explorers to name an entire archipelago, a name that today symbolizes the deep connection between these legendary creatures and the place they inhabit. A true emblem of an almost untouched ecosystem, where evolution and time have sculpted unique species that can only be found here, as you will discover throughout this journey. In total, the Galapagos archipelago is made up of 13 main islands. Each island has unique characteristics, stunning landscapes, and biodiversity that cannot be found anywhere else on the planet. Among the most famous and visited are Isabella Island, the largest in the archipelago and famous for its active volcanoes and the incredible diversity of species that inhabit its land and waters. Santa Cruz is the tourist and administrative heart of the Galapagos and home to the Charles Darwin Research Station, a key center for species research and conservation. Floriana, on the other hand, is an island steeped in history and mystery, famous for the legends that surround it, and also for the sensual and controversial realities that you will soon discover. The Galapagos belong to Ecuador, a country with a rich and complex history, which in recent times has been considered one of the most conflictive and dangerous on the planet. However, these islands are an exception to this rule, as security is total in the Galapagos. On these islands, safety is an absolute priority, which is why the police constantly patrol the streets of the towns, the docks, and the tourist areas. In addition, there are units specialized in visitor services and maritime control, reflecting the fact that tourism is the main driver of the local economy, and therefore, a well-cared-for and protected asset. As a result, the Galapagos has one of the lowest crime rates in South America, and according to recent reports, is also among the lowest in the world for an inhabited destination open to tourism. For travelers, this means they can explore the islands with a sense of tranquility that is hard to find elsewhere on the continent. The climate is another of its treasures, as it doesn't matter if you decide to travel in January or August, you will always find pleasant temperatures and clear skies that invite adventure. The sea, calm but teeming with endless species, always welcomes travelers with its deep blue. But what really makes these islands unique is not only their isolation or climate, but their extraordinary biodiversity. The Galapagos Islands are home to species that exist nowhere else on the planet, animals that seem to have come out of an imaginary world and can be observed as you walk around. Since in the Galapagos, the animals are not afraid of humans because there have never been any natural predators to threaten them. The first humans arrived on these islands in the 16th century, when sailors and explorers stumbled upon them almost by accident. Today, the local population barely exceeds 30,000 people, spread across a few inhabited islands. They coexist with the wildlife in surprising harmony, respecting spaces and customs that have been in balance for centuries. This reality surprises travelers, as it is completely normal to walk around observing seals, penguins, and birds of endless colors just a few meters away, or to snorkel alongside the only iguanas capable of diving or sharks of all kinds. Probably the story that spread around the world and made the Galapagos famous is that of a young British man who few know was a theology student who arrived here without knowing it and would forever change the way we understand life. His experience would give rise to a theory that would revolutionize science and shake the minds of entire generations, especially in relation to religion. You will learn all about this story in a few minutes. But first, let's delve into the heart of these islands to discover the extraordinary species that are the reason behind this theory that would revolutionize the world. The first of these is the marine iguana, a creature that seems to have come straight out of an ancient book of legends. This iguana is unique in the world, as it is the only one that dives into the sea to feed, being able to dive. Its sharp claws allow it to cling to rocks while the waves break with force, and its long muscular tail propels it underwater as if it were an aquatic reptile from another time. These iguanas have evolved out of necessity, becoming capable of diving for several minutes in search of seaweed, their main food source. In addition, to withstand the low ocean temperatures, they bask in the sun on volcanic rocks, absorbing every ray as if they were living solar panels. Another of their curious adaptations is their ability to expel the excess salt they accumulate when feeding in the sea. They do this through special glands in their nose, producing a characteristic white sneeze, which, although it may seem funny to visitors, is essential for their survival. Another unique animal in the Galapagos are the giant tortoises, living symbols of endurance and longevity. Some have lived for more than 150 years, defying the laws of time. Their enormous shells and slow gait seem to remind us that in nature there is no rush, and that by moving slowly, it is possible to live longer. These tortoises have adapted perfectly to their environment. They can reach colossal sizes, with specimens exceeding 200 kilograms. Their diet consists mainly of leaves, herbs, and cacti, and thanks to their internal reserves, they can go long periods without water, storing it with patience and natural wisdom. The Galapagos is home to the only penguin that lives in the northern hemisphere and in a tropical climate. This small, agile penguin is perfectly adapted to the heat, thanks to its ability to regulate its body temperature and seek refuge in the cool waters of nearby ocean currents. The best place to observe these beautiful penguins, and probably the most impressive in the world to see them from a few meters away because they are not afraid of humans, is Isabella Island in the Galapagos. This island is one of the most beautiful in the archipelago, not only for its unique fauna, but also for the presence of several active volcanoes that constantly shape its landscape. Among them is the Sierra Negra volcano, known for having one of the largest calderas in the world, and for its relatively recent and constant eruptions that have transformed the land, creating an environment in constant renewal that coexists with wildlife in an amazing way. Another species that catches the eye of any visitor is the sea lion. The males, which can weigh over 200 kilos, establish territories on the coast and surround themselves with up to 20 females each. This is why they are jealous guardians, and when another male tries to approach, they do not hesitate to engage in intense fights that can leave lifelong scars, although they are rarely fatal. These fights for dominance are reminiscent of another story that, centuries later, would unfold among humans on these same islands, that of a mysterious baroness and her unique courtship, which you will discover later. But now it is time to learn about a story that took place here, one that made us understand life as we know it today. It was the year 1831 when a young Englishman of just 22 named Charles Darwin boarded a ship called the HMS Beagle, unaware that he was about to discover the world with new eyes, changing the course of human history forever. Darwin was not yet the revered scholar we imagine him to be today, but a young theology student with a passion for nature and an insatiable curiosity, who always carried a journal with him, ready to fill with sketches, measurements, and unanswered questions. The Beagle's mission was to map the coasts of South America and explore unknown territories. As a result, for almost 5 years, Darwin traveled through endless pampas, impenetrable jungles, and majestic mountain ranges, along with the rest of the crew, collecting fossils and observing wildlife with a keen eye, but without expecting to discover anything revolutionary. Until, in September 1835, the expedition arrived at a volcanic archipelago lost in the vast Pacific Ocean, the Galapagos Islands. For Darwin, discovering the Galapagos was like discovering another planet. These islands seemed like a primitive setting, inhabited by creatures that defied everything he knew. Giant tortoises with shells that looked like houses, marine iguanas that dived into the ocean to feed, birds, seals, and other animals that showed no fear of humans. In the Galapagos, each island had its own signature, a unique set of animals adapted to its particular environment, unique in the world. Darwin arrived on the island of San Cristobal and was surely surprised the moment he set foot on land, observing that the animals showed no fear of humans, and contemplating the incredible diversity of species, many of them unique and striking, that coexisted in this special place. He began to notice details that no one had carefully recorded before, such as the fact that finches from different islands had different beaks, each perfect for feeding on hard seeds, insects, or flowers native to their region. Giant tortoises could be identified by the shape of their shells, which varied depending on the island where they lived. Not only that, but even mockingbirds, birds similar to blackbirds, showed differences in their plumage and song between nearby islands, something that seemed incredible, especially in regions so close to each other. The young Darwin did not invent the theory of evolution in one fell swoop while sailing on the Beagle, but he did gather evidence that deeply intrigued him, asking himself questions such as, why did animals that were so similar live on islands so close to each other, but showed different adaptations? Why did they seem to have changed from a common ancestor and not have been created independently? How were they able to adapt in such extreme and almost studied ways to the needs of their environment? In his diary, he wrote, "It seems to me that species are transformed. It is as if a finch had been modified to occupy different functions." This thought would be the seed of a revolutionary idea, reflecting his amazement at the differences he observed, noting ideas such as that species seemed to transform themselves to suit their needs, developing unique functions to survive. After almost 5 weeks on the islands, the Beagle set sail for Tahiti and New Zealand, leaving behind this small natural paradise that had raised so many questions in Darwin's mind. The voyage continued, but the young man returned to England in 1836 with boxes full of specimens and notebooks filled with notes on his discoveries in the Galapagos. Although he never returned to the islands, Darwin continued to thoroughly investigate everything he had collected during his expedition. For years, he patiently analyzed each sample, compared minute details, and debated with other naturalists. His view of the world began to change, and with it, his understanding of life and religion, which he had previously viewed from a traditional perspective. Slowly but surely, he began to understand that life was not a static collection of beings, but a dynamic process in constant change. Species evolved and adapted to their environment in order to survive, a natural process he would call natural selection. This theory, which he would finally present in 1859 with the publication of his work, The Origin of Species, proposed that only the best adapted individuals managed to survive and pass on their characteristics to the next generations, giving rise over time to new life forms and unique adaptations. Galapagos was an essential piece of the puzzle, but it was undoubtedly the key that showed Darwin that nature is not static, but a living organism in constant change, where species are not fixed entities but can transform, diversify, and adapt to new challenges. These observations sowed a revolutionary seed that would eventually shake the foundations of the dominant religious and social beliefs of the time. Beliefs that not only placed humans at the center of the universe, but also justified misconceptions that considered certain races superior to others. Darwin's theory of evolution would prove that all human beings, regardless of skin color or place of origin, come from a common ancestor that has evolved through the same natural process. This revelation would forever transform the way we understand science, our history, and our place in the world, debunking myths and paving the way for a more egalitarian view of life. If this story has fascinated you and helped you better understand the reality we all live in, don't hesitate to give us a like and subscribe to Uncensored World if you haven't already. As you can see, with us, you not only travel to extraordinary places, but you discover the world like nowhere else. Thank you for being here. Like Darwin, any tourist discovers that walking through the Galapagos is like entering a living stage where nature rules. The Galapagos is home to the only cormorants that don't need to fly, iguanas that can warm themselves and dive, and birds of infinite colors that nest just a few feet away from tourists. On every beach, reef, or trail, the feeling is the same. Here, humans are the visitors, and the animals are the true owners. Few places in the world offer such a clear example of life's ability to adapt. The Galapagos is an open laboratory, where each species tells a different story of survival. This can be seen with the naked eye, but the wonder of the Galapagos goes far beyond what the eyes can see on land. Beneath its crystal clear waters lies one of the largest populations of different species of sharks in the world. These seas, rich in nutrients thanks to the convergence of ocean currents, are a vital refuge for white-tip, black-tip, hammerhead, and even whale sharks, among many others, which form an essential part of this marine ecosystem. A particularly mysterious and fascinating place is known as Punta Blanca. In this area, divers and experts can observe thousands of silky sharks, tiger sharks, and hammerhead sharks, mainly a concentration of predators so extreme that it indicates a healthy and complex ecosystem, sustained by an abundant food chain and a protected environment. But the Galapagos Islands are not only a natural treasure, they are also a place where human beauty shines through. The mix of cultures that has inhabited this paradise for centuries, together with a small and close-knit population, has given rise to a community with traits and customs that many visitors find captivating. It is not uncommon to hear tourists who, after a short visit, decide to stay forever, falling in love not only with the islands, but also with their people. In recent years, a curious phenomenon has grown: marriages between foreigners and locals, a bond that further strengthens ties and traditions in this remote corner of the world. Perhaps this special attraction also has something to do with the genuine hospitality of its people, as the islanders are famous for welcoming visitors with a warmth that makes even the most distant traveler feel at home. This closeness is reflected in their customs and in the way they live their daily lives, always with respect for nature and for those who come to know their home. One of the most magical moments to discover this cultural side is during traditional festivities. Among these, a dance called La Danza del Albatros, the albatross dance, stands out, a very sensual dance inspired by the courtship of these majestic seabirds that inhabit the islands. This provocative dance simulates the movements of albatrosses during mating season, with sensual and elegant gestures that surprise those who discover them. It is a tradition that reflects the deep bond between the inhabitants of the Galapagos and their natural environment, a tribute to the wildlife that surrounds them. Living on the islands means adopting a routine marked by the rhythm of the sea and the sun, where daily tasks revolve around fishing, small-scale agriculture, and sustainable tourism. This connection with the environment brings an air of serenity and health that is reflected in the appearance and spirit of its inhabitants. If you have ever dreamed of a place where beauty can be found in every corner, not only in nature but also in its people, the Galapagos may be that place, and at the end of the video we will help you discover how to visit and enjoy this archipelago to the fullest. But before that, and before learning about the mysterious history of one of its islands, where a baroness, accompanied by two lovers and a small circle of characters, starred in one of the most fascinating enigmas of this region, we would like to ask you, do you know of any animal as strange and fascinating as the marine iguana that dives in the Galapagos? Imagine being like the Galapagos sea lion. How would you take care of and maintain so many partners? Do you think you could handle so much action in your life? Pause the video and leave us your comments. We'd love to hear from you. And remember that this is the best way to support Uncensored World, so we can continue working every week to bring you the best content. Thank you. Floriana Island is one of the smallest islands in the Galapagos, but also one of the most mysterious, as its landscapes hide a story that has fascinated and baffled tourists and locals alike for decades. This story revolves around a seductive and controversial figure, Baroness Eloise von Wagner, a woman of European origin who came to these lands in search of a paradise far from the civilized world, but who would end up starring in one of the most sensual and mysterious episodes in the region's history. Baroness Eloise was known for her extraordinary beauty and a lifestyle that was very extroverted and unusual for the time. She arrived in Floriana, accompanied by two lovers, forming an intense and unconventional love triangle that soon disrupted the tranquility of this small, isolated community. Initially made up of no more than a dozen inhabitants, seeking to build their own paradise far from the world. Her charisma and freedom to defy social norms caused deep tensions among the residents. The Baroness's presence and lifestyle aroused intense passions and jealousy that soon triggered conflicts within the group. Some accounts speak of heated fights and nighttime disputes that filled the air with a tense atmosphere charged with conflicting emotions. Over time, these tensions translated into disturbing events, unexplained disappearances of both men and women, and tragic endings in mysterious circumstances. For example, a couple of poets who arrived with the Baroness disappeared without a trace. The Baroness, with her extraordinary beauty and enigmatic character, became the epicenter of all these stories. Her relationship with her two companions was the focus of constant rumors. Some claimed that jealousy and love affairs between them had caused these tragedies and mysteries, while others suspected that she was hiding even darker secrets related to the disappearances that marked that period in Floriana. Although many details have been lost over time amid legends and rumors, the story of the Baroness and that small group on Floriana continues to shroud this small island in an aura of mystery that attracts those who wish to discover the truth hidden behind the wild beauty of this corner of the Pacific. If you've come this far, you're probably interested in finding out how to visit this paradise on Earth. That's why we at Uncensored World have done some thorough research, and now we'll tell you how you can get there and enjoy this beautiful country to the fullest. To reach the Galapagos Islands from the US, most travelers must stop in Ecuador's major cities, such as Quito or Guayaquil, where direct flights to the islands are available. From Europe, it is most common to fly first to these Ecuadorian cities, and then take a domestic flight connecting to the Galapagos. It is important to note that, although Ecuador currently faces serious security problems in some areas, especially in large cities such as Quito and Guayaquil, the Galapagos Islands are an exception, being a particularly safe environment for visitors. For this reason, whenever possible, it is recommended not to spend many nights in Quito or Guayaquil and, if possible, to transfer directly at the airport to continue on to the Galapagos. This helps minimize risks and ensures that your trip gets off to the best start. As for visas, citizens of many countries do not need a visa to enter Ecuador, including most countries in the Americas and Europe. Although it is always advisable to check the specific conditions according to your nationality. In terms of costs, visiting the Galapagos can be affordable if planned in advance. Although it is not the cheapest destination in the world, Ecuador in general is one of the most economical countries in Latin America, and the Galapagos maintains that reputation. although it can be slightly more expensive due to its remote location. For example, dinner for two at a mid-range restaurant can cost around $30 to $50, while a night in a comfortable mid-range hotel is usually between $50 and $100, depending on the season and the island. On the islands, excursions are varied and exciting. You can go on hikes to observe the unique wildlife up close, walking surrounded by seals or penguins, snorkel to swim alongside sea turtles, diving iguanas and sharks, or sail between islands to discover different ecosystems and discover their different species as Charles Darwin would have done. To get around the main islands, there are regular boats and organized tours that connect places such as Santa Cruz, Isabela, and San Cristobal, making it easy to explore several islands in one trip. Regular ferries usually cost between $15 and $30 per trip, depending on the route and the company. Guided tours include transportation and activities, and their price can vary between $100 and $200 per day, offering a more complete and comfortable experience. As we mentioned, probably the most fascinating thing about this trip is that many of the species in the Galapagos are not afraid of humans at all. So it is possible to observe sea lions resting on the shore, or endemic birds perching very close to you without feeling any fear. This creates an almost magical feeling of being in a world unlike any other, where nature retains its power intact. In addition, each island offers different experiences. Isabela stands out for its active volcanoes and the possibility of seeing penguins on the beaches, while Floriana, with its history full of mysteries and legends, invites those seeking something beyond nature. Santa Cruz, on the other hand, is the administrative and tourist center, where you can visit the famous Charles Darwin research station and learn even more about the conservation of this archipelago. Many travelers find in the Galapagos a place to disconnect from routine, reconnect with nature, and reflect on the fragility and beauty of our planet. For all these reasons, visiting the Galapagos is undoubtedly a once-in-a-lifetime experience, an adventure that combines science, history, adventure, and close contact with the most spectacular biodiversity in the world. At Uncensored World, we hope this video has helped you discover the Galapagos Islands, as you have seen, one of the most fascinating and beautiful jewels on the planet. If so, don't hesitate to leave us a like and a comment. It's the best way to help us continue working every week to bring you more interesting content like this. Or like this video, which you can now watch to discover another of the most mysterious and beautiful places on the planet. Click on it, and you're going to enjoy it.